Sarah. Our public guests are in and we are recording, so you can begin whenever you're ready.
Welcome, everyone. This is a public meeting of the Indiana Arts Commission convened to review regional initiative grants for fiscal year 2021 from Region 2, which includes Elkhart, Fulton, Kosciuszko, Marshall, St. Joseph, and Stark counties in Indiana. I'm Sarah Craig Pratt, and I will be facilitating the panel today. Today, for record, is April 29th, 2020, and we're meeting by conference call, streaming live by webinar. We welcome applicants who may be listening in today and would like to remind you that you are muted during the review. There is no direct contact in conversation about your evaluation before, during, or after. So please do not do any follow-up with any of the panelists. We welcome applicants who may be listening in to review. At this time, we would like the panelists to introduce themselves, starting with their name, occupation, and what county they're from. Janine?
Good morning. I'm Janine Andresiak. I am from St. Joseph County, Indiana, and a retired director of grant administration and a grant writer for many years.
Thank you. Jessica?
Good morning, I'm Jessica. I'm living in Pulaski County, working in Marshall County. I've been writing grants for a while and also been on this panel for a couple of years now. Good here to see you all this morning.
Angela?
Good morning, my name is Angela Mcleod. I'm in St. Joseph County.
Thank you. Ramiro?
Good morning. My name is Roberto Rodriguez. I live in St. Joseph County. I am an artist and printmaker, painter, and also exhibition coordinator at the Snipe Museum of Art at the University of Notre Dame.
Justin?
Justin Taylor, Kosciuszko County, City Planning.
And Jennifer?
Jennifer Weiner, Fulton County. I currently work as an art programming coordinator for the Times Theater.
And we also have representatives from the Indiana Arts Commission. We'll now begin the panel review, and this is how the process will work. I will announce the applicant, and we will review and ask the first reader to begin the discussion. The first reader will provide their assessment of the application based upon the evaluation criteria and their perspective. Panelists, please note that the applications do not need to be recapped since everyone has read it. Just provide your comments. After the first reader is finished, I will ask the second reader to present any new information or additional or opposing comments. We are not looking for consensus, just a full evaluation from the different perspectives the panelists bring. After the second reader is finished, I will open the discussion for final comments. Remember, in the interest of time, we are only looking for new and additional or opposing viewpoints. And please remember to, once you're finished, hit your thumbs up. If a panelist has a conflict of interest, which we do have one, I think the third one, the panelist will be placed on hold by Brett, our tech person, and we will review, and then he will bring, Brett will bring that person back in. If the panelist drops a call, we will continue, and the panelist will then be responsible to get back into the Zoom and contact Brett on your own if you need help. Finally, once the application has been reviewed by the full panel, we ask the panel to update their scores on the online system. It's common for scores to change as a result of the broader discussion. These scores save automatically. Are there any questions? Anyone? Okay. We'll go ahead and get started. We have one arts organization support level 1 to review, and then the rest for the record will be arts project support. So our first one is Wild Rose Moon, and Justin is our first reviewer. Justin?
All right, hopefully I do this correctly, but hopefully the second speaker will be able to catch anything that I miss or omit from my evaluation. I just want to say it was exciting to see the variety of performances that Wild Rose Moon brought to Plymouth. The history of the organization I felt was clearly presented. I would have enjoyed seeing a little bit more detail about the organization's inception and growth, but that wasn't really clearly spelled out in the application, so I didn't really penalize for that or anything, but I would have just enjoyed to see more information about that. It was great to see how members of the community had opportunities to get hands-on experience through internships, different aspects of audio engineering and things that are vital to the success of live performances. Since there are many aspects of this organization, and it would have been nice to know a little bit more specifics on how the grant would be used to further their mission, instead of just more generic terms. It was great to see that they have a new dedicated outreach coordinator that would help drive inclusion and diversity in the programs. I would have liked to see a little bit more information about the proposed outreach to minority communities and how representatives of those communities would be selected and identified. Overall, I feel like it's a very strong application, but those were some things that I noticed. So with that, I'll turn it over to the second speaker if they would like to add any comments.
Okay, thank you. Angela?
I am in agreement with everything Justin said. I'm just running through my comments and I agree with the enthusiasm and strength of this organization. The mission is clearly stated and the staff is all volunteers, very active board. They seem to have a clear strategy for engaging the community in development and planning.
Okay.
I believe, yeah, I'm sorry. That's me. Sorry, I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, any other panelists have additional information? Just raise your hand. Or jump in.
This is Janine. I just had one comment. I thought it was very positive that the board members, that 85% of the board members contribute financially to the organization. And I would just suggest trying to strive for 100% of board members financially contributing. Thank you.
Okay, any last thoughts? Okay, panelists, please score your sheets and then let us know when we're finished, when you're finished. Okay, I think, is everyone finished? I only saw one thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. 3.
Where is the, it's not,
Oh, it's down in
I
the
got
bottom. If not, just, you can give me.
I got it.
one.
I
Okay.
got it.
Yep, I counted you. So I have Janine, Jessica, and Jennifer finished. Take your time. Okay, just checking in with Ramiro, Justin, and Angela. Are you finished yet?
Oh, yeah. I thought I had sent a thumbs up already.
Oh, sorry if I missed it. Justin? Okay, and Angela?
Yeah, I did that as well.
Sorry if I didn't catch it. Okay, I think, Kayla, that completes the review of Wild Rose, and we will move on to our second applicant, which is Downtown South Bend, Inc. And our first reader is Janine. Janine?
Sorry, it's not opening up here. Okay, I thought the project description, everything in the application thoroughly described the Trail of Courage event and the history and its purpose. The artistic quality, I thought was evident through the authenticity of the performers and the longevity of the event. The promotional materials I thought were very professionally done. I would have liked to see information about the surveys, use of surveys. It says that the steering committee goes over possible programs, but it didn't say how, it didn't have much information or any information about measurements and how those measurements are utilized or how feedback is utilized.
Sorry to jump in. This is Angela. I just wanted to clarify, Janine, I think that aren't we supposed to be on Downtown South Bend?
Yeah, I was just about to jump in as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wonder
No
how
worries. We're all, we're making our way through,
Yes.
so that's okay. Well,
sorry, I gotta get back. I don't know why.
take your time. Take your time.
See, my second one is not Downtown South Bend. I'm sorry. It's not in order on my list here, so I apologize.
I was gonna say, it might be how you have them sorted. If you click on the project title at the top, it should put them in alphabetical.
Okay, let me see.
South Bend first.
Well, I'm on Downtown South Bend now, so.
Okay.
I apologize. Like I said, the order was not.
That's okay.
Way.
You've got lots of screens in front of you.
Okay, Downtown South Bend. All right. Okay, back to Art Beat. The purpose was clearly stated in the project description: variety of visual art, culinary demonstrations, music and dance performances. Community project I thought was unique to include all these different types of activities for the public. The clear description of the artisan selection process was included. I I think it's a positive direction for 2020 to focus on more quality art rather than crafts, and that feedback from the past was used to come to this conclusion. A bit more information on the survey, how the surveys are distributed to gather feedback would have been a bit more helpful. And also, I thought more examples of artists' work would be good. There were only a couple, and showing videos of musicians and the dancers and the culinary demonstrations, I thought should be included, since there are 250 visual artists and 750 other artists. More could have been shown. I thought the financial accessibility for the event, since it's free for the public and the artists are only pay a certain, a low amount to get in. I thought that's good to make it accessible to others. There's a variety taking into account, different ethnicities and cultures. Let's see, no mention is made of accessibility for individuals with disabilities. I assume that since it's on the streets, that's not an issue, but might have mentioned that. One of the other things I thought that promotional materials were a bit underwhelming, but maybe, it probably ramps up towards the project, but not much was included. The other thing I thought I would have liked to see a bit more detail in the project timeline. I thought the chronological order format was great, but just a little bit more detail about, committee meetings and, how things go through the whole process. One other thing in the budget, it said cash income totals 44,800, or I'm sorry, it said that the cash income totaled 43,900, and when I added it up, it was actually 44,800. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Ramiro?
I concur with Janine. I think she was pretty thorough on her evaluation of this. I just want to say that I do applaud the free aspect of that, and the way the project has gone to try to get more art and less of craft, as they say. It'd be good to see how they're evaluating that and choosing some of the artists for the events. Once again, the marketing and art examples are good, but I'd like to see a little bit more. It seemed like they were missing a few areas, maybe showing some more diversity within their marketing materials. But yeah, overall, happy with the project.
Okay, thank you. Any other additional comments from panelists? Anything that was missed? Okay, panelists, please score your sheets and let us know with a manual or electronic thumbs up. Thank you.
Sarah, before we move on, I just want to make sure that this next one, the City of Warsaw, is the one with the conflict of interest or conflict. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, and it's Justin that needs to be put.
and Taylor, yes.
Okay, so Justin, like I said earlier, I'm going to put you in a dark waiting room, and everything will be okay. Just wait for me to bring you back in.
Okay, just checking in with Ramiro and Jennifer. Are you okay, Jennifer? And good. Okay, we're all set to move on. So you can place Justin on hold.
Yep,
Yeah.
he's on hold, so you're good to go.
Okay, great. This is the City of Warsaw Parks and Recreation Department, and our first speaker is Jessica.
Okay, so looking through this one, I really love that the opportunity there is for local artists to perform versus some other places that bring in outside artists as well. Both are of course relevant, but I love that this includes the local opportunity. I like how the artists are chosen. I like the many different kinds of music that they have. In their budget, I question, it says 2020 and 2021, and there's a dollar amount listed next to that. I would wonder if that's just carryover from the previous year, like leftover budget money. I wasn't sure what that was supposed to be. I love what their social media page is doing. They have a great following. I'd like to see how they estimate the number. I'd like to see that be done maybe a little bit more strategically, but they're doing some follow-up on who attends. They're doing all kinds of work to make sure that from year to year, there's growth and both opportunity for new as well as returning artists. Overall, I really enjoyed this one, and it's something I'm gonna have to look into.
Okay, thank you. And our second reader is Jennifer. Jennifer, maybe you could answer some of Jessica's questions.
The purpose was clear and was noted in the narrative. A further description on what efforts in identifying the community members and the organization and how that organization works to develop the project each year, I think would provide insight into what the organization does to ensure the authentic experience. I also wanted to note that the organization gathers feedback from the audience members through an evaluation program. However, the narrative didn't really provide to me the information on how the organization gathered that from the community it served. I got it that it gathered it from the audience, but it wasn't too clear on from the community that it serves. And that there was limited information on how the organization uses the community engagement in planning and implementing the project itself. There was a lot of information on how the staff does that. And then it is clear in the narrative that the organization wasn't clear how they were understanding the demographics of the area that it serves and how that's reflected in the selection or the process of the project. And otherwise, I liked looking through and seeing, I think they had great documentation on giving us the thought and quality of the program that they present.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments or thoughts from other panelists?
This is Kayla. I just wanted to jump in terms of Jessica's comment regarding the budget for cash income for 2020 and 21. They split their project over 2 concert seasons because of the way that the IAC does their fiscal year. So they do part of it in 2020 and then they'll do the other half in 21. So just to clarify that point.
Thank you. Thank you. Any additional comments from other panelists?
I would just like to reiterate that some of the comments I put were that their targeted audience for children under 18 is part of their mission, but they don't really show how they intend to reach that younger audience. So maybe some more information on that would be helpful.
Good, thank you. Okay, panelists, if you could please post your scores and then give us a thumbs up.
I've just let Justin back in, so you're good to go whenever.
And we have all our thumbs up. So we'll move on to the next review, which is Constellation of Stark Creative Network. And our first reader is Angela Mcleod. Angela?
Thank you. Well, this is an organization that wishes to support an artisan and makers market, as well as pop-up markets. And I think this project description needs to be expanded a bit. And I know I'm recognizing that it's a startup, but it still needs to have more detailed plan, I believe. I mean, the event is planned and the venue is planned, but in terms of the artists involved, it's great that they want to use local artists mainly, and it should be a great celebration of the area. But it doesn't have a clear definition of who the creatives are. It wants to be more expansive in terms of anyone that is creative, which I believe is everyone. But for instance, how does gardening fit into a venue like this? And the video presented was very professional and a wonderful showcase of the region and all of everything good there. But I think it could certainly include more focus on the artists that would be part of this creative network and who might be at this. And so what's missing, I think, in this application is more information about what makes this project meaningful, impactful, and quality, artistic, or authentic. In addition to just being, it involves the local makers, which is to be celebrated for sure. But in terms of the, the quality of things there, it was a kind of a big range in terms of the few pictures that they included. And of course, being a new, not having done yet project, the plans for communicating engagement are a little less clear. The marketing material is a bit limited, but the participation projections seem reasonable. But it was a little bit, the one financial statement they included was a little confusing. So, and there was some notations in the application feedback to them from administrator. So hopefully they'll see that. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And our second reader is Janine. Do we have a frozen screen or is it just me?
I don't think.
There she is.
It does say my internet connection is unstable though, so I don't know what that means.
Janine, can you start over?
Sure. I thought that the whole idea of the events is great and unique, and with their I guess looking into this and putting it all together, I think for the community it sounds like it's a good thing. I too had a little bit of a question about how all the different types of artistic things would fit in. I also, just in the application, just one thing, I thought there should have been a little bit more information about the project manager's experience and how it relates to her role to be one of the main event coordinators. That was not listed. That was about it. And actually, I think, again, I'm a big timelines, I guess, are always important to me. And so I always like to see a bit more detail in the timelines, but everything else was pretty much, my thinking was pretty much the same as Angela's.
Okay, great, thank you. Any additional comments from other panelists? Feel free to jump in.
One thing that I had to note was that it took me a while to realize what exactly the Stark creatives, or the constellation of Stark was. So maybe if that was said a bit earlier in their descriptions, that would help some people.
Thank you. Additional comments?
Sarah, it's Kayla. I did just want to jump in because I know that there was some confusion on the uploaded financials. This applicant does have a fiscal sponsor, the Northern Indiana Community Foundation. So the applicant was instructed to upload financials for the fiscal sponsor. So those are what were provided correctly in the application.
Thanks for that clarification. That's important. Any other comments, thoughts? Okay, panelists, if you could please score your records and then give us a thumbs up. Okay, it looks like we have thumbs up from everyone. We will now move on to Corvilla, Inc. And our first speaker is Jennifer. Jennifer?
Hello. First of all, I thought the organization clearly stated the purpose of its project, and it describes the studio and the evaluation process very well. How the information was gathered for the recurring project and how it's utilized was a little unclear. I would have liked to know more, perhaps what was learned and how it's being applied, since it is a continuing project. Allowing the program to be free choice, I felt, gave me the assurance that the client was actively seeking out the experience. A brief description of the Connections Day program would have been a little helpful to help me gain a little bit more insight on the other choices that they had. A description on how the project was adapted to fit each person. I realized they talked about some equipment, adaptive equipment, but how those adaptions would create into the program would have been a little bit helpful to know that. The description of the studio spaces was well identified and documented, and I felt that that would give a meaningful and authentic experience. The organization identified that it would serve the demographics it served and how it compares to the community was great. The narrative shows the organization's efforts to gather information through a variety of evaluation tools and measures. There is a noted intention to increase direct interaction with the community when they start talking about the studio and cafe and involving some artists there. So I thought there was some forward thinking on that. Training for the program coordinator was noted in the funding intent of the grant and a vision. So a description a little bit more about the training that they were going to receive, whether that was provided in-house or outside, would have been a little bit easier for me to understand how they're using that to make the project a little bit more engaging. Whether people outside the Connections program were able to use it, I saw that there, in one of the narratives at the bottom, it said that all are welcome. So I wasn't sure if they had to be part of that Connections program. And then having a description of the needs for each studio was very helpful in the timeline. The project timeline included when purchases would be, if the timeline had included when purchases would be made and staff would receive training along with when evaluations would be included, I think that would have demonstrated to me a little bit more the organization's ability to plan and implement to this program. So just a little bit more on the timeline would have been helpful. But overall, I think this is a very good project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Our second reader is Justin.
Yeah, I agree with the things that Jennifer highlighted in the application. I really don't have much to add. I mean, I really do think this these types of projects are great for people with developmental disabilities and different aspects that they struggle with, just to reinforce some of those positive labels. So I enjoyed seeing that this program was being proposed, and yeah, so I don't really have much to add beyond that.
Okay, thank you. Panelists at large, any other comments? Okay, panelists, if you could score your review and then the thumbs up, and we'll move on. Okay, it looks like we have all of our thumbs up, so we will move on to the Elkhart City Parks and Recs Department. And our first reader is Ramiro. Ramiro?
Hi, yeah. I thought that, oops, sorry, I'm losing my screen here. I think the goals and the process were clearly stated for this project. I think it would help if there was more documentation of the artists, as well as some shots of the events and grounds, as far as being able to get an idea of the artistic quality, and to get a better scope of attendance and the diversity that they're seeking. I think that the effort to update and scope the scope of the festival is and the target audience is a good strategy. I found that the wording to some of the descriptions of their target audience might be a little more carefully chosen, as to not exclude other groups that they might that they're trying to expand on. Their marketing materials were pretty good. And it was helpful to see, it would be helpful to see more examples of the marketing, maybe newspaper ads, radio links, and TV spots. Their Facebook page didn't seem to have been updated lately, so I didn't have a really good idea of the scope of what they're doing. The new efforts of counting the audience more accurately, I think, are a good idea. Their budget seemed reasonable. It might be helpful to see more numbers about the park staff and volunteers and the buildings and grounds staff to make sure there's adequate people for staffing for this. But the timeline seemed manageable. Other than that, I mean, one concern, I don't know if it's if it's needs to be part of this, but their description of having only one entrance to this festival kind of gave me concern as far as access for various peoples. And I know it's a more of a crowd control issue, but it seems like they're.
Whoops, Ramiro, I think you went mute.
sorry, can you hear me now?
We ended with discussion of the entrance.
Oh, yeah. So, well, just that I think that they might want to consider, and I'm sure they're working with the park services as to whether that's a safe option of having just one entrance into the event. But overall, I like what they're trying to do with providing this event for the Elkhart area.
Okay, thank you. And our second reviewer is Jessica.
Hi. I think it's worth noting that this project's been going on for so long and they don't get any funding from Parks Department or the city. I would wonder why. Also, I agree with the last speaker on the social media pages. I come from, a marketing background, so of course I feel like that's super important. The link that takes you to is actually for an event that's 3 years old. I think that the event could probably have its own page or at least, be updated regularly. There is actually a Rhapsody Music Festival page, but it's not for this local event. So, and currently with, social media being where people will go to look for what's happening, it'd be nice to have that updated as well. Project management. I think that with a project this large as well, it would be interesting to see if they can find some in-kind, some kind of in-kind could be definitely recommended to look into that as well. Those are the only added comments I had.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments from other panelists? Okay, panelists, if you could post your scores and then give us a thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, we have all of our thumbs up. So we will move on to our next review, which is Ensemble Concept 21 Inc. And our first reviewer is Janine. Janine?
Okay. I thought that since the ensemble is in its 7th year, that a clear history and working with young composers and musicians is a real plus. And they are planning to have new programming for the coming year, so that makes it or enhances it even better, and a collaboration with the South Bend Lyric Opera and premiere performance of a famous composer is a really great thing. Shows the artistic quality. The question and answer session that they have at performances between composers and the audience is a unique format for gaining feedback. They don't have surveys, but they have the question and answer period at each performance. So that's different. Hopefully it helps them to gather information that they need. They're making great efforts toward diversifying programming and collaboration, adding new venues, providing free performances is all great in reaching new and diverse audiences. Marketing and promotional materials I thought were nicely done, but I wasn't sure if the materials are reaching and attracting individuals in the different ethnic groups or cultures. It doesn't really speak to that. The program manager has an impressive background, but it didn't say what the roles and responsibilities of the project director or other staff are. It doesn't list any other staff, so I don't know if there are any other staff, but if that's an omission, then that needs to be addressed. And also the timeline, again, I think should have a bit more detail about what activities are going on and how they correspond with a different timeline and dates throughout the project. And the budget is reasonable, I thought, for the performances that they have. That's it.
Okay, good, thank you. And our second reviewer is Jennifer.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of what, I'll take a look who was talking before me, what Janine had to say. I did want to say that the narratives were very well done. It answered a lot of my questions as I went along. Two of the links I was unable to pull up, but the other link that I was able to, the material provided in that answered a lot of my questions and did show me the quality. I really felt that this organization took into consideration the location, their printed materials, along with their partnerships and board participation as far as its way to outreach into the community. And that was nice to see in an organization that's developing and still growing its program. It was very affirmative to me. And again, I have to agree with the timeline. If more on the timeline could be provided about what roles were being addressed and how other people were participating in that, would give me a better understanding of its ability to do that if something were to happen with a staff or thing. I know when you do something for a number of years, perhaps it runs into place well-oiled, but just to know a little bit more about how each position is taken care of would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other additional comments from other panelists? Okay, panelists, go ahead and score your review and give us the thumbs up, and we will move on to the next one. Okay, we have completion for Ensemble. We will move on to Fulton County Historical Society, Inc. And our first reviewer is Justin.
All right. So this seems like a great program that has been improving over the last 43 years. I would like to see a little bit more clearly delineated narrative of how the organization has used its past experiences and community input to inform the planning process. So just a little bit, I think it's happening. I just don't know if it was described that well in the application. So I just recommend that maybe a few improvements be made there. Efforts have been made to, it's clear that efforts have been made to incorporate a diverse swath of the population, but a little bit more detail on the idea, strategies, and initiatives and how they are incorporated into the project would also be helpful on future applications. And again, I do think it's happening. I just don't, from the application, and maybe I missed something, but it didn't seem like it was spelled out as clearly as it could have been. Also, it seems like this project is the result of many staff and volunteers. But in addition to describing the role of the museum director, it would have been nice to see some of those other additional staff mentioned in that description. Just to see how their involvement is in the project, and it's not this whole event isn't dependent on one person. That would have been nice to see as well. The planning process seems well structured, and the timeline seems adequate for the event to take place each year. So I didn't see any major issues with how the planning process was described. So those are my comments for for this one.
Great, thank you. And our second reviewer is Ramiro.
Yeah, I agree with Justin on pretty much everything he said. I think it would be nice to see a detailed breakdown of what staff to do to get a picture, but it seemed pretty good in relation to what Justin just brought up.
Okay, thank you. And additional panelists, any other comments? Okay, please post your scores and give us a thumbs up. Okay, we have completion, and we will move on to the next one, the Goshen Community Chorale Incorporated, and our first reviewer is Angela.
Okay. So I think this chorale is definitely hitting the mark and drawing large audiences for their performance in a small city. And it has utilized many sources for this in the community for the project. They seem to have a very clear understanding of idea and have articulated that. And even though, and they do acknowledge that it's an ongoing work in progress. They collect data, both quantitative and qualitative. The examples of promotional materials are professional, and the website is professional and up to date. The Facebook has many followers and likes, but it isn't really clear how other social media might be used to connect more broader community, maybe to help develop diversity in the audience. The organization is organized, leadership is good. They have an inclusive approach to membership, although, of course, trying to attract younger people and more diverse singers is always their, I guess, a struggle, but it's well noted. But they do have a strong membership, longevity in the community, the financials are strong. I believe that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And our second reader is Jessica.
Thank you. I specifically also noted the difficulty in getting younger people involved, and I know that that's an issue across the board with a lot of organizations. But I'd like to see how we can maybe work through that somehow. I would also agree that the social media is being used, but I think it's very underutilized. I like that the responses to the survey are portraying not just the beauty of the music, but they also include like spiritual enrichment and community building. I think that provides a lot of really great insight. And I like who they draw in to work with them to make sure that there's a lot of quality to what they do, including like the different Orthodox groups, and so that there's a lot of authenticity there. Those were my added comments.
Okay, thank you. Any other additional comments from the panelists? Okay, panelists, please post your scores and give us a thumbs up. And we have completion, so we will move on to our next grant to review, and that is Logan Community Resources, Inc. And our first reader is Jennifer.
Hello again. I think for our new project, the organization relayed a well thought out plan, and it included identifiable collaborations. It included some relatable experiences and established use of their already established relationships and how they develop from past programs. I think that they define this very well in their narrative. They state an understanding of art for the community and life enrichment by identifying a need and then designing a project that responds in a meaningful way. And I think this will be very impactful, not only for those who they're serving, but also the community. They state an understanding of art for the community and identifying a need. They designed, again, sorry, I just repeated the same thing, the impactful way. The artist examples that they provided were very nice to see, and I appreciated that they included a client working on one of their projects. The organization's values of kindness and quality and respect toward expanding opportunities for their clients in collaboration with related resources within the community, I think, showed a recognition of inclusion, diversity, equality, and access to the project and art itself. Skilled support identified in the community engagement narrative supports the vision that all can fully participate. I believe there was a strong purpose with a very attainable vision for growth and inclusiveness within this project, as well as working with others. And that's so that they had the opportunity to showcase, I believe, again, just brings this to the community. It was stated that the staff, clients, and students would provide input to define various projects. A brief description on how that input would be attained would help add a little bit more to the narrative, just so that we can see other ways that were thought that the clients and the participants could give their input back. The timeline, I believe, was well structured. It really had enough information to provide me with knowing that the organization can plan and obtain their goals. And it was nice to see a value placed on the staffing needs in the project, as well as the recognition of the value of the participants' artworks with the receipt of 70% of their sale. The budget shows an attention to the project's funding and needs. I did notice a $100 difference between the submitted expenses and income, and didn't know if that had been addressed. But all the other documents showed fiscal responsibility on this project.
Okay, great, thank you. And our second reader is Justin.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Jennifer on this one as well. One thing that stood out to me that I don't know if she mentioned was the social media. And obviously this is a first year project, so you don't expect to see, you know, tons of social media, but they just provided Instagram links. So I think it would be nice to see, you know, a couple different platforms or a website that is ready, getting geared up to go for the project. Obviously it's not going to be completed just yet, but a little bit more outreach in that regard would have been nice to see on this application.
Okay, thank you. And any additional comments from any of the other panelists? Okay, panelists, please post your scores and give us a thumbs up. Okay, we have completion, and we will move on to our last grant to review, and that is Merrimans Playhouse, Inc. And our first reviewer is Jessica.
Thank you. So I love this idea. I love this project. I feel like there's a little bit of concern there on no term limits for the board president. I've seen that a lot in things that are very, very small, or also things that are self-started, which this looks like it has been. Maybe as they grow, they'll adjust that a little bit. Description of the space was amazing. I love the huge number of concerts and programs that are putting on, literally hundreds, and they're all volunteer. So there's no paid staff there. That's a ton of work to get accomplished with just some volunteer work. I like that they have different price levels, things that cost, maybe $10, $12, but also things that are free and open to the public, so that it opens it up to more of the community. I like that they're looking into making the space more accessible, moving to maybe a single floor and making the accessibility there. I note that a lot of the online sources are used, but their marketing costs are still really high. So I would wonder where it's broken down pretty well in there, but it seems like a huge portion of their budget's going for marketing when they're using a lot of the like online resources. So that could potentially be adjusted a little bit. The number of artists and people involved, I think they took that a little bit differently than I did. I was looking for like a number of individual artists. They've got totals there, so that could be several repeats. I'd like to actually see what the number of individuals that are affected would be. A couple of little like housekeeping type of things. They left the instructions in the budget part, just getting rid of those things. They have small crowds, but with the small space that they have, that could be intentional. And also just, being primarily jazz, that could also be that their group that they're advertising is also small. I've noted in there that they have a really great following on their social media pages. I like how many young people are portrayed in their advertising efforts. They have really great reviews. People are having a lot of fun at this event. And then it just reverts back to the advertising costs seeming really high. Those are my primary comments on that one.
Okay, thank you. And our second reviewer is Janine.
Thank you. I agree with everything that Jessica mentioned. Just going through my review and listening to what she had to say, I guess I don't, the only other thing I could, that I could add is, and one of the comments I put in the review in my review, that I thought it was great that they would add comments to their application that from the professor at Notre Dame, saying that the level of musicianship at Merrimans Playhouse is always excellent. And I think that, adds some credence, I guess, to the level of quality. I like the idea of, they're just the whole concept, and, having opportunities for young musicians to play alongside with experienced musicians, and giving that opportunity to, it seems like the young musicians who are kind of just starting out, and this is a trial of, their performance skills. I think that's a great concept, and they seem like, they're getting a lot done. And the fact that they are moving, they've closed it was on their website that they closed their one space, and they're looking for a space that's more accessible, so they can include more to come to and enjoy their performances. I think that's great. That's it.
Hey, thank you. Any additional comments from other panelists? Yes, Jennifer.
I too was impressed by just the generational use of this project. I did want to note on the timeline, the organization, they may be accustomed maybe to their annual timeline, but it would be helpful for a panelist to get more detail on the scheduling, marketing, for them to demonstrate that. Just kind of helps me understand what the organization plans and considerations that they make, especially with a project magnitude like this. Thank you.
Good comments, thank you. Additional comments from other panelists? Okay, panelists, please post your scores. And this concludes the review of the panel. Panelists, please stay online. Thank you for tuning in for those who were applicants. Applicants will be notified of their status of their grant in late June following the IAC's quarterly business meeting. If you have any questions, please contact Kayla Myers at the Community Foundation of St. Joseph County at 574-232-0041, or you can find that number on their website. Again, thank you for joining us, and good luck.